Where after one receiver was paid, another still waits his turn. Brandon Ayuk still continuing his holdout with the 49ers as his future still seems unclear. San Francisco seems like they should want him on the field to try to get over their playoff hump. The 49ers have had their hearts broken in the playoffs lately, losing twice in the NFC Championship game and then in last season's Super Bowl. They last won a title in the 1994 season. Bart, we'll start with you again. Is the 49ers Super Bowl window closing?
It is, because they're relying on a 36-year-old left tackle who, yes, can probably play to 40 like Whitworth, but we know one thing is true, that credit card bill is coming up. Because if you talk about Dak Prescott, he's about to break the bank. We're going to find out how much they truly feel and value Brock Purdy, because he can make the argument that his statistics and the fact that he's had his team in the Super Bowl, in the NFC Championship, is better than Dak Prescott. So if that's the case, will he make the argument for $60 million, or will he say it's more about Kyle Shanahan? You talk about Christian McCaffrey. He's been healthy of late, but we know his injury history. You talk about the violent way in which Deebo Samuels plays, looking like some of the tread is coming off those tires. And the rest of the league and the rest of the division is starting to catch up. When you think about, it's no easy out. It could be the most competitive division in all of football, but you see the leaders of the new schools starting to come. The Lions are starting to come to the party. Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers are starting to come to the party. This window is now. And if they don't win in the next couple of years, I think they're going to have to reboot and start all over with a new core.
Okay, so let's talk about this, because what he's saying is right and wrong at the same time. This is arguably the best time for the 49ers to go out and win the Super Bowl, because their best players, like the Christian McCaffreys, Deebo, they're going to be done sooner rather than later. Okay, they are getting older. They are dealing with those nagging injuries. And you just don't know what's going to happen. And you're going to now also have to pay Brock Purdy. Even if Purdy takes a more team-friendly deal, which I feel as though he will. I don't know what that number ends up being, but I don't think he's going to try to break the bank and hold out, That's just my gut. Whether that ends up being true or not, we'll find out. But you're still going to have to pay him. It's still money, and you're paying him nothing now, essentially, right? So it is still money. Whether it ends up being $50 million or $65 million, it still is now something that the 49ers have to deal with. And I do agree that these other teams are getting better. The Lions, the Packers, the Rams, the Eagles, all these teams are not going away, or they are just arriving. And that's going to be harder. I mean, it just is, right? It's just the reality that I think the NFL is just getting better and better and better. And I think quarterback play is getting better and better and better. So those are real things that the 49ers will have to deal with, especially when that coincides with potentially other players getting older and injured and whatever it may be. But I don't want to say, though, that even though I think that this year and maybe next year maybe are the best chances that the 49ers have at winning the Super Bowl, it doesn't mean that I think that the window will then be closed and now they're in trouble and oh man, they're done now for the next 5+ years or whatever. Because I think the 49ers are a highly, highly, highly run organization, right? John Lynch, Shanahan, they know what they are doing. The 49ers will be competitive for years and years and years. Will they have a down year, 1 or 2 years? Sure. But think more like the Rams, which I know 49ers fans don't want to be compared to the Rams, but the Rams, right? It's as long as you got McVay, as long as you have a competent quarterback like a Stafford, who I think, by the way, is a great quarterback, you are going to be a contender. And will you have a year that's a little rocky or down like last year or the year before? Sure. But now it's give it a minute and they're back in. They're back to being contenders, and I think a lot of people would believe in the Rams even more if Stafford was 5 years younger. If anything, they're kind of hanging in the balance more so because they just have an older quarterback at this point. And that's obviously not the situation with the 49ers. I have tremendous faith in Lynch being able to continue to build a team, to move on from aging weapons when the time calls for it. Whether it's Deebo, whether it's Christian McCaffrey, whatever the situation may be. Kittle, I don't believe that they got those players and it was just luck, right? That they got lucky in the draft, they got lucky in free agency. These pieces were not dropped into their laps. It took real moves, right? Real aggression, real proactiveness. And I think the 49ers will continue to do that. And then when you have a coach like Shanahan, as brilliant, I think Shanahan is an absolute bona fide top coach in the NFL, the window's going to be open. Like I said, you might have a season or two where things are, say, all right, we kind of got to go out and get this guy, got to go out and get that guy. We do got to replace this guy. It can take a second, but the 49ers are more than capable of finding the next Puka Nacua, for instance, right? Like they're able to do that. They're able to get the Brock Purdy. I think also, and 49ers fans I know really, really, really love Purdy. And I think Purdy's really, really good quarterback. I do. I think he gets a lot of undue hate that he doesn't really deserve. But to me, the question is what can Brock Purdy become, though? Because if Brock Purdy is just as good as he is right now, that's definitely great. And I've defended that plenty. But it will make the team ever so slightly less resilient, especially to some of these other teams that are, they're not going to run into some of the same issues that the 49ers have right now with like an aging roster with some very, very key players. And so the question is can Brock Purdy get 5 to 10% better? Can he continue to grow and be a better quarterback than he was yesterday? If he can, then that window is definitely open. Definitely open. Because then you will be able to make do with some of these less than stellar, top receivers, top running backs, whatever it may be. And I've said this before, that they lost the Super Bowl last year, and I don't blame Purdy. Purdy's not the reason why they lost. I do not blame Purdy. But if Brock Purdy was 5 or 10% better, I think they win. I think he's able to overcome the fumble from McCaffrey. He can overcome the fumble on the punt return. He can overcome the injury to Greenlaw, right? Like I believe that. But he wasn't good enough in that moment, which is okay, right? It was his second season in the NFL, and he was already in the Super Bowl going up against the elite team of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Spags. Like that's understandable. But the thing is now where will he continue to progress, right? Because these other teams are going to continue to get better. You are going to continue to face great top level quarterbacks like the Mahomes of the world. And now it's like, can Purdy enter the discussion where people can't deny that he is indeed an actual, say, top 5, top 10 quarterback? Because it seems like many people still have Brock Purdy outside of the top 10, right? Most people in the media, I should say. I know fans don't. Fans absolutely love Purdy, especially 49ers fans. But I'm just saying, if he can get to the point where he becomes an undeniable top 5, top 10, where nobody in their right mind would ever say he's not, right? Where no one in their right mind, and no matter how much people want to pull down Josh Allen, like no one in their right mind is saying that Josh Allen's not a top 10 quarterback. And really only the most insane people will say that he's not top 5. But if Brock Purdy can enter that discussion where people have to say, obviously he's top 10, obviously he's top 5, then the 49ers window will just really continue to be open for the next 5-10 years. Again, it'll change. You're not going to have the Christian McCaffreys. You're not going to have the Debos, but you're going to have people that we don't even know that exist right now. It's some 19-year-old right now who just entered college, right? Like that's the way how it's going to be. So this window for this team, this nucleus, the team that we see it as constructed right now, I do believe that window is closing because they're getting older. And Christian McCaffrey, be a 49ers fans, you have to admit, you hold your breath every time Christian McCaffrey gets tackled. Every time he's on the sideline for maybe like an extra play or two, you're like, is he okay? Does he have a heating pack on his calf? Is that an ice or heat? Ice means he's done for the day. Heat means he's trying to like loosen it up and get back out there. Like you have to admit that. Like those things are unsettling. And when the bulk of your offense is run through, say, a Christian McCaffrey, that's unsettling. Then they will have to have a new vision for that team. Obviously, they still believe that he still, can do it. That's why they paid him. But you just don't know. They are legitimate question marks. That is the benefit that when you have your bona fide top next level quarterback, when you have the offense run through that gives a little bit more clarity and more stability because that's obviously the most important position. When you're relying more heavily on an Ayuk, on a Debo, on a Kittle, on McCaffrey, things can just get a little bit more rocky. And that's kind of the issue that the 49ers can run into. But yeah, I think this next year, this coming year, this season will be very telling to see who the 49ers are, what Brock Purdy can become. Will he improve? Because if he doesn't improve measurably, then I will say then this is who Brock Purdy is. Like a really good quarterback who can definitely play great, who doesn't shy away in playoffs, and you absolutely can win, but you do need to make sure that you come in there with a great game plan and you come in there with a legit roster around him that he won't be able to overcome. If Debo and Christian McCaffrey go down, he's not going to be able to put that team on his back and get a win. I'm not saying that's not the case. I'm just saying, like, if he doesn't get measurably better. And the argument against Purdy or just older quarterbacks in general is that older quarterbacks, they are who they are. That when you get a raw, physically talented quarterback who's like 22 years old, 23, whatever, they have more room to make these leaps and jumps. Whereas some of these older quarterbacks, they've already played a ton in college. This is who they are, right? The Kenny Pickett's, the Bo Nixes of the world, they're not going to get better than what they are. This is who they are. I don't have a strong opinion on that either way, personally. I'm definitely kind of a more wait and see person before I try to say Brock Purdy's clearly not going to get any better, or Brock Purdy's definitely going to get better. I don't know. I'm a wait and see person, but in terms of the Super Bowl window closing or staying open, at the end of the day, everything that I just said, it really will ultimately come down to what type of quarterback does Brock Purdy end up being within his career. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you think the Super Bowl window is closing for the 49ers? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.